Hi friends, my name is Femi Biwoye. In this tutorial, I'll show you how to make use of URL hopper and best way to make use of it. Over here, I've written some codes here so as to avoid us save the time in which we'll have used to type all these codes out. So I'm just going to make sure that I explain each of these codes from the top to the beginning, but this is the heart we currently have in our view. So starting from the top, or the one at the top, so we have URL with the method of home. So I also make sure that what I have inside the link is also what is being displayed out here. Meaning what is being displayed here is also the link behind it. So starting with the home, URL home, it means if in case you want to go back to the home page of the current website you're working on, that is when it will take you back to the home page. Remember, what we have here is just the project name, which is Yii Advanced. So this is the current project name, and this is a directory in which I save the current project name. And by the way, this is a new environment I'm working on, unlike the previous one I've been using to develop the previous tutorials. So that's the first one. It takes you to the project's name, which is the landing page of the current website. So the second one, if you had a parameter of true inside the home, it includes the full URL of where you currently are, which includes adding the HTTP or HTTPS of what you're currently using. But now the third one about for the home method is you can pass a parameter of the transfer protocol you want to use, maybe HTTP or HTTPS. By default, when you use true here by default, it gives you HTTP. But in case the website you're working on make use of HTTPS, maybe you already set up your SSL certificate. So that's when you can now pass in the transfer protocol you want to use. Maybe it is HTTP or HTTPS. Now that's for the home. So if you click on this, it takes you back to the current home page you're working on. While the second one also takes you back to the current home page. But this one, because we're working locally, so I think we should flag error because of the HTTPS we're working on. But in case you already have your SSL certificate installed, you shouldn't have problem with that. So now the second type of code is base. Second thing we'll be looking at is base. Base is similar to home page. As a matter of fact, it does everything that home does. But the only difference is how it looks like, how it is being rendered. Now looking at this, exactly what I have here is what I have it as well. But the difference is the fact that the home includes forward slash at the end of the URL, while the base does not include forward slash at the end of the URL. So that is a major differences there. And what is the advantage of this one to this one? This one can be used anytime, and this can be used anytime as well. But this could actually you can actually concatenate a string to the end of this without adding your forward slash. Maybe in case you have done this, then you want to just add something to it like let's say ID of one. Let's say 123 and ID of 123. When you save and go back to your code, you discover that it automatically hide the ID to you without you adding a forward slash to it. But in case you're working with base, that means you need to make sure your forward slash is being included like this before you continue. So else you're probably going to be having a joint string here. So this is how it's going to be. So that is a major difference between the first one and the second one. So let's continue to the next code. We have toRoute here. toRoute allows you to, it redirects you to any controller action, which is a router within a project. For instance, the first value you had there, and also let's note something that router accepts an array as accepts an array, and also it accepts strings as well. In case you want to use just string instead of an array, it accepts string and also accepts array. So the first value you input before the next forward slash is your controller, while the next after the first forward slash is your action. So looking at this one, we have test URL forward slash test. Remember, this is our domain name from here. This is the address we're working on. The test URL is our controller, while the test is the action. So I already created a controller which we call test URL, and this will accept us. This is test URL, which is a dummy controller I created so as to be sure that it's actually taking us to where we want to go to. So if I click on this, it takes me to this place because this place is currently empty. Let me just echo this to be sure that we're on the right page. Yes, it says, hi, I'm here. So let's go back to our previous page. So the next thing we want to look at is adding parameter to toRoute. toRoute, yeah. Adding parameter to it. After you've written your action controller action, the next thing is adding your parameter to it. Whatever name you had there is what the value will be assigned to. For instance, we have a parameter 1 with the value of 123 and parameter 2 with the value of my name. So, which is exactly what we have here. If I click on this, remember we have parameter 1. This is our action. This is our controller. This is our action. This is parameter 1, which the parameter 1 is 123 and the parameter 2, which is my name. So the next thing here is let's click on it and see where it takes us to. So look at our URL here. We have parameter 1, parameter 2, and also in order for us to display or render our the value that is being passed in. So I think this will work. 1, 2, 3. You are here, my name, which is exactly what we have here. We display parameter 1 first, then I concatenate with a string in between it, and at the end of it, I also had parameter 2, which is parameter 1 space you are here space parameter 2, which is exactly what is being rendered here. So the next thing here is without your array bracket. Without your array bracket, it is still the same thing with the first one. And the next one is detecting the transfer protocol you want to use, maybe HTTP or HTTPS. So after you've written your address, then the next thing you need to do is you can pass in your the transfer protocol you want to use, which is HTTPS. But note that this is not in array bracket, which is why we've been able to pass it in there. But if in case you want to pass it while we have this, it will not be inside the bracket. We're not going to pass it like this. No, it's not going to be like that. Instead, we're going to pass it outside of this place, which is HTTPS. So let's go back to our browser and check. If you check the beneath of this place at the bottom here, you see what we have there, and that is because we included HTTPS into our parameter, our value that is being added into the first example that we have here. So the next one is image. Remember, in order for you to access your image from the default location in which your website is loading from, you need to add @w, which is load from my landing page here. I mean, load from this place, meaning my home directory where my website is loading from, which is my maybe index.php where it's loading from. So which is, that means my web, then / a folder called images, which is a images here, image folder here, followed by home. I think I have those there, followed by home, then followed by logo.png, which is here. So now let's let's look at this and see how it's going to work before we jump into our tool. Now we have the image here. Clicking it, I'll hold Control so that it will be opened on another tab. It says object not found. Now, what we're trying to achieve here is for the image that we're trying to access here to be displayed in the next tab, but it says object not found. But look at the URL as well. Our controller, our project name is being displayed twice. It's being displayed twice, which simply means toRoute is actually rendering what we have in here as if we are trying to access a link, which will take us to a particular page. And with that, it also includes the controller and the action. So in case you want to access what we have here, I mean, maybe in case you want to access an image using a link, so the best thing you can do is, instead of using toRoute, you can just remove the tool from here, which is exactly what will do the trick for us. So if I click on it now, it displays the image we're trying to access. So now, which takes me to the next method which we have here, which is tool. Now it doesn't have route. So every other thing here works alike. They works alike. For instance, the first one works the same thing. Also, the one parameter works the same way. The one without, the third one without parent array brackets now exclude the project name, meaning it's just displaying the controller and the action. So the next one, which I had, includes my transfer protocol, the transfer protocol I'm using. Sorry, don't mind my language. My transfer protocol is this. It includes everything here. Now note it excludes my project name. Now it's just displaying my where I'm loading it from, my server, / my project name, / my controller, / my action, instead of my project name before the controller and action. So this might not really work for you, but in case you want to do stuff like this, make sure you include your parentheses for it to work. So in case you had your array bracket here to it and refresh, let's check beneath this place at the bottom here, and we'll refresh. It now has what we have there. So clicking on it takes us to the place, the page we want to go to. So lastly, in this section, looking at the image. So remember, there's no, what we have here, we're trying to access image, unlike the first one that includes the project name twice. So once we click on this, it takes us to where the image is located and renders the image, not trying to access it as if you are trying to open another website address. So the next set I'm going to is the current. In case you want to get the current website address, which is what we'll have, URL double full column followed by the current, then it's going to display the current website address, which is what we have here. Current website address, which is exactly what we have at the top here, without excluding the local host, because when this is in production, local host will no longer be there. Instead, your Yii/advanced will be your domain name. Probably it could be your domainname.com. So this will be removed. What we just have is your domain.com / your URL upper / your index, in case you are using this example on live server. So the next thing is, in case you want to add parameter to your current website address. In so many situations, you see a website whereby one is trying to grab the current website address and add a parameter to it before going to the next page. In this case, that's when current becomes very relevant. You grab the current website address and automatically it has a parameter. You can include the parameter to it and it will configure the parameter in the right way. Maybe you are using maybe you are using maybe you already have a parameter there by default on your current website. Automatically it still plugs in the new parameter you're trying to add rightly, which is exactly what we have here. Remember, we did not include question mark here at all before we include our parameter. Let's say you already have a parameter there already. The only thing needed for it to be for it to be added was will be the new and ampersand sign followed by your new parameter. So current really allows you to get the current website address you're working on and being able to have parameter to it. So the next thing we're looking at is remember. Remember help you store your current website address temporarily just for future purpose. For instance, if you are on a particular website, and let me use a general example that we all could be familiar with. Let's say you're trying to a guest user is on the website, and you want to take the user back to login page. Maybe they're trying to perform an action, and you want to take them back to login page, but you don't want it to be displayed on the address box here. Maybe you now include the current website and address on the address box. Instead, what you want to do is you want to store the current website on a particular section so that after they've logged in, you just plug in back the current URL and you can retrieve back the current URL, which is exactly what we have here. For instance, if we use this, as you are currently accessing this page, the current address is being stored. Remember, we already called it, which simply means this 3 action has been performed already, meaning we already have this website address being stored already. And also, you can name your website the current website address that is being stored. Maybe, for instance, you're trying to get different pages address, maybe for a particular user, like the website before the one was coming from and the website it was coming from, so that you want to render or you want to use it to determine the website the person is going to next. So that you can use that. This one saves the current website, no parameter, exactly what you have in your website URL. But the second one has parameter. Remember, it's not as if the user will have to see it, but you are including parameter to it before you store the address you want to save into a temporary, let me call it session. So, and also this second parameter that you added into, remember, this is a single parameter that is using a array parenthesis. So the second parameter is going to be the name which you want to use to store it. So I call it remember1, which is rem1, and the second one too, I call it rem2, which simply means we have test param and we have test param1. So the value could be the same thing, or let me say the value could be like this, just to show that we have different parameter and we have different name for the value that is being stored in the URL. So I'll save this and refresh. So now the next thing I will need to do is once I click on it, it takes me to it's still on the current page, but I will go to the next page to see if our value is being stored. Let me copy this and I will refresh. I will go to test URL, Is it test URL? It is, yeah, test URL slash index slash test, yeah, test URL slash test. Good. What I need to do is I need to include let me echo it. I'll call it URL remember. So accessing this, it will display remember. Let me say rem1. No, sorry. We'll call it previous. It's called previous. So accessing the previous, let me refresh. It displays rem1, which is what I just used. So let me go back to this place and refresh. Coming back and refresh again. It stores our URL. This URL we have here is what is being stored in here. URL that we have here, that we have in here for the first one is what is being displayed here. So let's say we want to display this, we want to display this, we want to display this. The difference between these two and this is the fact that this has name, rem1, rem2. This one is the general, can be replaced anytime if I change the value of the current URL. So let me access echo the rem1 and rem2 as well. So let me duplicate this and I'll say rem1 rem2. So let me go back and refresh. So now in this case we have the default one, which is this, and which is being declared here, and the second one, which is rem1 and rem2, which is this and this. So it's now the second line and the third line. So in this case now, in case you go to any, maybe the next page or the next 2 pages or the next 3 pages, but you just want to access that particular website address, it is easier for you to quickly retrieve the website address. So lastly, before we go, I want to make use of relative. isRelative. These are some of the functionality that we can make use. Some of the advantages of using Yii created URL helper for us. So isRelative allows you to determine if the website address that is being passed here is relative to URL Yii2 or it's not. Relative means, is it structured in Yii2? For instance, the Yii address I understand that the first string before the forward slash, or should I say the first word before the forward slash, is controller, while after the forward slash is action. And the second one here, like I have 2 examples here. This one we all can understand that this is like the normal parameter we pass in here. This is controller, and this is test. In case you were wondering, like the remaining ones we have here have forward slash before it, and this one does not have forward slash. We can add forward slash to it as well. It doesn't make anything. It doesn't make any changes. So why this that we have a full website address here? So we want to check the differences. Like what is the difference between this? It's either return true or false. That is what relative is all about. It's like, is this relative to Yii2 framework or this? So let's go back to our website address, to our previous page, and I'll refresh this, which is exactly what we have in here. The first one says it is relative, while the second says it is not relative. So let me exchange this just so that you'll be sure. Let me exchange this and see if it's going to change. Good. It says this is not relative, why this is relative. So that is how you get to make use of relative and non-relative. So you determine the value that is being passed through, or the value that is being accessed there. Maybe you want a user to just provide their username, like, okay, provide your username, let's say username1 slash maybe a parameter. But instead, they are trying to provide the whole of website address. So in that case, you can just determine, like, the value you inputted is wrong because you are not putting in a correct value that is being requested for, and compared to the second one that is providing the full website URL. So you can just check Yii2 official website and check some of the documentation and some of the things that you can actually make use of while with URL helper that is being provided for you. And you can play around all this that we've been able to learn today and see how best you can make use of it. See you in our next tutorial. Take care for now.